Cool. Kia ora, Jade here from Unearth Your Worth, coming to jam with you about communication and why it matters. And I'm going to share with you something that I've been, I would say working on, but it's more like giving a facelift to a very one of my very first models that I put together, and wanting to share it here again, a bit revamped inside of our community. Now, in saying that, I am actually live in a couple of different places, as you're probably used to by now. So I'm streaming live over on YouTube, here in our authentic and business community, and also live on my profiles, here, LinkedIn, etc. So, as per the comments below, if you find this valuable, if you find that there is a need or a desire for you to discuss this deeper or further, please jump over into our Facebook community, and all questions and discussions will be taken deeper in our community. That's just so I don't have to look in 10 different places and have 10 different conversations. We can kind of have it all in one place and go from there. So let's jump into the Unearth Your Worth communication model that I will share my screen right now and start to present on. This will be fun. All right, sharing my screen. Cool. So before we go any deeper, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the creation of this model. So this is a model that it felt like I threw it together in 2016, and it was back when I was more focused on sales coaching, and it was all designed around like how you can communicate or really remain balanced in your communication. So kind of revamped this model, and yeah, it's just really simple, the communication model, which can be used in many different areas of communication. Yes, you can still use it when putting a sales filter over it, but you can also just use it with going through life and having the conversations you need to have. So I want to talk to some of these visuals first, just to give some context to the visuals, because they're a little bit, different, and there's a few different pieces there, and I want those to make sense. I'm going to kind of set a frame in the next couple of slides as to why communication is important and what we hope to achieve by going through this model, and then I want to take you through the model itself. So a couple of things with these visuals. I trust you can see my mouse, and if you can't, that could be an issue. Let me know if you can see my mouse, if you're on. Turn that volume down. Yep, we can see the mouse. So let's go. So obviously these are scales, so visuals are very important when it comes to communication as well. We've got verbal, non-verbal, visual, written. Okay, there's just like your basic like communication factors. And so here I'm using some visuals to get across some of the context, or get across some of the point, to kind of back up what I'm talking about. So on these scales, on one side we've got a briefcase, which is symbolic for business and also money. Okay, and as we go through, these visuals will start to make more sense. And over on this side, we've got a customer satisfaction kind of radar meter thing. The things that you see in the airport. How happy were you? Not happy, happy. And we've got, a heart, which represents care. Now, the reason I put these in there, these symbols, right, is because on one side of these scales represents more like customer service. I want you to take your brain and go like more customer service focused, which isn't really focused on, isn't directly focused in the moment on these things, which is like the money. It's just focused on satisfaction and customer care. Whereas on the other side, we've got like this more business money focused mindset. And so we're going to be looking at the two different scales here, and and kind of just like bringing in these archetypes of customer service versus business, right? Helps us to understand the knowledge as it unfolds, right? Understand what's being taught here when we've got these archetypes, when we've got these visuals, etc. Now, for my favorite in the middle, we have got, I wanted to, obviously, well, it's not I wanted to, it just come through me, but using and drawing on my culture. And at the time when I was creating this, Matatini was on, Te Matatini, which is the Kapahaka competition festival in Aotearoa, where our people get on stage and perform kapahaka, right? It's like, it's like, I'm going to explain it for those that might not understand a little bit. I'll go into it. But anyway, as I was watching kapahaka, right, and this is my mind just going like, you know, when you do get creative and you bring in new things, it's like having a moment. But anyways, we have our fuck, I don't even know how to explain, like cat's got the tongue. Anyways, we'll just call them our leaders of our kapahaka group. This is, to me, what balanced represents, okay, is the balance, the balance that is required on the Matatini stage. Okay, that's where I was going with this whole thing. So the whole point of this Unearth Your Worth communication model is to remain balanced. Okay, is to remain balanced in our communication. So what these two represent, and maybe I'll find some words a little later on down the training, but for me, this energy of the leaders who are leading their rōpū, their group, through this 20-30 minute performance, expressing their, the stories of their ancestors, that balance, that dedication, that passion, that, also that flexibility, which we'll look at in a moment, that mana at the core of, these beings when they're on stage, that mana, that strength, that power is what really I wanted to put across here as the mana that we can harness, that we can stand in when we are communicating. And that's the point of that. And hopefully I'll find some more words a little further down the track. So the point of this model is to create balance in our communication, bring an and attitude, which you would have heard me speak about, maybe to do with shadow work, but it's everywhere. Having an and attitude is to be balanced, is to know how to walk both sides of these scales, or know how to walk both sides of life or anywhere, and having that flexibility, developing that flexibility to be able to embrace both sides, right? And then also, obviously, having a focus, so we know what we know when to move to this side or move to this side. We know when to move accordingly when we've got a really clear focus. So let's jump in. Communication matters. Internal communication, how you speak to yourself, how you listen to yourself, matters. Having that ability to listen and speak, inquire with yourself matters. That is where self-awareness comes from. That is where the growth of your internal muscles, like the sharpening of your thinking, the sharpening, changing, empowering of your beliefs, the upgrading of your beliefs, all of that internal, all those internal muscles are shaped through communication and how well we can communicate with ourselves. External communication also matters, right? How we speak, how we communicate with others matters. How we get across a point, how we ask for what we need, how clear we are, how concise we are, how certain we are, how confident we are behind the words that we're using. That matters. And then this is a third piece, I just want to put this here, but there does come a time also where we can automate and systematize our communication, but I wouldn't be doing that when and until, you know, our internal communication and our external communication are kind of humming naturally, and then we can talk about automation. But these are kind of the three main areas that I want to focus on in the message that or the teaching that I'm putting out here for the next little while, is in these three areas. So for number 3, the automated communication inside of Authentic in Business, the community, the global community, I am sharing things like how to set up your operating systems, which includes email, and it allows you to systematize things, automate things. So this is all kind of in that direction, right? But this training, this one that I'm going to run through now, has got everything to do with number 1 and 2. More so number 2, because it's teaching us how to actually communicate outside. So that external communication. However, there is a good degree of internal communication that we're going to address, because we're going to see some of these attributes and some of these archetypes, and it's going to raise questions like, where am I with my ability to be able to communicate in a certain way? Right. So we've just been through this, how we communicate with ourselves, with others, and when the time comes, how supported we are in our communication. It all matters. And this is where I want to put my focus on for the next however long. So let's have a look at what's on the side of these scales. Now, you can read these lists, but I'm going to just jam on out loud a few things. Now, as I mentioned at the start, this little briefcase and wad of cash, right? This side of the scale represents the part of us that can be more self-focused. And again, this is like the business-minded salesperson archetype, right? If you've ever seen this in action, if you've ever seen this archetype in action, it's got the tendency to be a little self-centered, indulgent, a little bit smug, overly confident, it's very sure of itself. And there are different levels. Which we'll look at soon. There are different levels of this smugness, or this, these attributes. There's different levels. At the very far corner of self-focus, it looks like very self-centered, boastful, arrogant. It's more on the the shadowy side of the equation, where we can be, and I'm saying we because we all have the ability to be on either side of the spectrum. Okay, some people tend to stay on one side of the spectrum rather than the other, and this, as I said, this training is about finding that balance, right? Being able to come back to center, no matter where we've trained to be, no matter where we tend to end up on this scale, on the spectrum. It's about knowing how to come back to a place of balanced focus. So I think I've got here we go. We'll alternate between like the scale and then the words that were on the previous page. So at any given time, as I said, we may be more than the other. So we may tend to hang out on this side more than we hang out on this side. We tend to be more self-focused. These are really good salespeople. This is why this training was really powerful when it came to sales, because the metaphor and the archetypes were just really easy to get. So on this side, self-focus is just like that salesperson that will just go out and get the job done. They don't really give a shit about what's standing in the way. They're just going out to get it done, right? And there'll be like a bit of rapport in there and whatnot, but ultimately it's like, let's do the thing. The other side, where we're more others focused, is where the focus is on providing that outcome for the customer, and it's a little bit more customer service focused. So it's probably, so it's, this person is not really bothered with those outcomes, right? Or with the financial outcomes. They're just like, whatever works for the person. And we're going to have a look at, we're going to flick back now and have a look here at some of these more detrimental attributes that come with both sides of these scales. So the more detrimental attributes, if we just remain on one side, is if we remain more self-focused and we're all of these things and we don't know how to balance and be flexible and be, come to the other side, then we're kind of just gonna look like this. We're just gonna look and feel self-focused to those that we connect with. Same on the other side. If we are uncomfortable with going over to the other side of these scales and we're more others focused and we're used to just like providing that satisfaction and that service, then these are some of the detrimental attributes that can come across when we are more others focused and we don't know how to have some grit and balance at times. If we don't know how to do that, we're gonna look like some of these things. We're gonna look like just yes to everything, yes, whatever you need, over giving. There's a bit of anxiousness and insecurity in there. And when it comes time to getting things done, right, it's just not, to me, while it's beautiful to give others what they want and to be of service and all the rest of it, it's just not sustainable to be one side of the scale only. We need to learn how to balance. We need to learn how to be flexible and to move on these scales. We need to learn how to traverse on these scales as needed. So I'm just going to stay here for a little minute and start to tell some stories about more about these symbols, about these pictures, these visuals, and also, just starting to bring this all alive. So where I really felt connected to using, these kaya, these rangatira, these leaders of a kapahaka group, is because when watching matatini, watching our people, it's okay. So for those of you that don't know what Te Matatini is, it's a 3-day competition where in Aotearoa in New Zealand, we Māori have kapahaka, and it's like the Olympics for kapahaka. Kapahaka is like a cultural performance, right? Or a cultural performance of our songs, of our waiata, of our haka, right? And where this really landed for me is that when you see all the different components of our performance, from the entrance to the poi, the whakaeke, the haka, all these different uh, songs that will be performed have such different energy, and yeah, such different energy. Like the haka, um, anyone that's seen a haka knows it's like, it's very like like it's everything comes alive in you, and it's very just like that warrior energy, and it's so beautiful, and it just like it's heaps of energy, and it's just like, yeah, it's the haka. And then all of a sudden you have this beautiful maybe a waiata aringa, where it's a very soft, playful a song where there's lots of smiles and all the rest of it. Or you've got the poi, which involves much skill that I don't really have. Me and the poi, oh man. um, but like the poi, right? Much skill, like precision needed for the poi, right? Versus, a waiata aringa, where it's like a lot more playful and a lot more smiley, whereas, the poi is the same. It's definitely not a haka, but it's definitely not a. So the point is of all of this is that the inspiration of having these two visuals here, having the leaders of a kapa haka group, having the energy of kapa haka incorporated here, is because the very performance that is given has so many different songs, and those songs have, that bracket has so many different songs within it, and those songs, or those pieces, have different energy. Like a moteatea is very, it's a lament. It's slower. It's deeper. The haka is high energy. The poi again is very technical and can be very playful and beautiful and smiling. And yeah, it's like this energy changes. And this is what we're talking about in this model when we're talking about traversing. It's traversing the energy, it's traversing and changing when we need to, not just being on one side, not just, staying to one side of the scale. It's being able to traverse the whole spectrum and all of the energy, all of the expressions. So, what does that mean for us in our communication? Well, let's look at this again. If we are more self-focused, we're out to win at all costs. Our mentality is out to get. We can be quite egotistical, kind of like not much patience for others' views, or we're just coming in there to get what we need to get and get out, right? And it can be quite arrogant and quite direct. People, we just cannot be this way. We cannot. This used to be more prominent like 10 years ago. This way is slowly dying out, because you have to be like a trusted advisor. You have to have that connection. Like, you can't just be one-sided, right? On the other side, we've got others focused. No, everybody loves somebody who will do a lot of things for them, who will just say yes no matter what. But honestly, tiring? Honestly, do you get the results that you want? Like, honestly, do we get the results that we want if we're always saying yes? If we're, are we always chosen? Are we always approached? When it comes to like getting things done, I bet, there's definitely times where we're not approached because we've been known to be more others focused. So again, really staying on this side of the scale is not sustainable if we want to move forward and we want to have, create. And communication is about creation, because communication leads to creation. It's us asking for what we need and therefore receiving, right? It's everything starts with communication. And if our communication is one-sided or off at the wrong time, whatever it may be, then we're not going to create with ease. We're not going to move forward. And this is a shame, right? Because our communication just remains unconfident and we don't create. So the point of this video is like, how can we balance? How can we create that balance, bring in that and attitude, and develop flexibility in our ability to communicate? So let me come back a few slides. This is where we want to be, to have this balanced, focused, like these two. These two, rangatira, these two leaders, right? This energy of a leader is clear-headed, is flexible, can get up and do the haka when it needs to, and can come back and smile and be loving and playful as well. Okay, this is what these two sides of the spectrum represent. Over here is the haka, right? We might need to put our foot down and do the haka and have a bit more mana, right? A bit more strength and power. Over here is where we might need to soften. We might need to soften and be a little bit more gentler and guiding it as such. Now, when would we interchange? When would we use these? So I'm going to tell a few stories to get this point across. So keeping these attributes in mind, you know, honesty, openness, clarity, certainty, trustworthy, being approachable, detached, all of that. Most of all, being genuine in our response, These are all so important. I speak to, you know, businesses day in, day out. And like I also speak with my own clients. And those are two different kettle of fish. Like, especially when speaking to businesses, this has really helped me train my muscle here, because you can have a lot of self-focused archetype. You can have a lot of self-focused energy when you're speaking with businesses, when businesses are speaking B2B, like business to business, because they're just trying to get it done. And for me, I definitely bring this balance focus. And this is kind of where the whole approach that I bring to it is like, I take no shit from these people, and I also know how to give a shit deeply when I need to. So I'm not others focused when the person is being unreasonable in their desires or what they want. When someone is maybe being a bit direct or rude, when someone is being over here, then I am not here. I am right here with them. But there's scales. So they might be at a 4, I might chill out at a 3. Yeah? If someone's here, I might be around here, right? This is something, and I will do more trainings on this, but one of these myths that I just don't roll with, and I mean, I'm pretty good at what I do, is that, you know, you have to kind of respect where someone's at. Well, not really. If someone is coming in at a self-focus, this is what I need, give me what I need. Well, if I am on task, and if I need to ask questions, or if I need information from you, well, I'm going to tell you what I need. I'm going to tell you what I need, because I need to be self-focused on what I need for a moment in order to help you. So generally, I will start out like here. I'm just using this some example of someone is a bit, you know, demanding on what they want, especially if I'm speaking to a very you know, just give me what I need yesterday kind of person, highly analytical, maybe just highly driven, impatient kind of leader, whatever it may be. If they're coming in with a self-focused attitude, and it's at about a 4, I might start out at a 2. And depending on how their attitude goes, they might get a 3. And then if they're still not understanding the program, I'm needing something from them in order, you know, before they can just make these demands, then they may see me get to a 4. Does that make sense? Basically, when you have when you are communicating, it's this, I'm just realizing there's got to be a whole lot more trainings on this. There needs to be so much more discussion around this. Yeah, that's when I will become self-focused and have more of these. Not so much, I should have done like different iterations, like what it is to be at a 5. These here are a 5, self-focused 5. And at a 4, they're just lighter. They're just lighter. They're closer to balanced. They're holy shoot, all over the place. So balanced is these, and maybe like a 3 self-focused is like clear-headed, but a little honoring of self. That's the difference. It's like, it's not self-centered, but it's gonna honor what self needs in order to continue this conversation. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, there's definitely like our communication has got to be able to traverse. We can't just be one. We can't just stay at one spot. We've got to be able to swing on these, like monkey bars, like just swing. I'm shit at actual monkey bars, but swing on, we need to be able to traverse back and forth depending on the situation. When I'm speaking to a customer and they come in, I'll give you a really good example. This flexibility matters so much. Let's say a customer comes in and they are pissed. Okay, they are rocking it out here. When I listen to them, if I can hear, listening to them creates my focus. Listening to someone creates my focus and helps me understand what it is that I need to do. When I'm listening to someone, if they are not happy, if it's genuine, like if it's like, oh, okay, this is on us, or this is on me, this is on me, this is on us, I will swing out here. I will become others focused like that, because I can hear that the focus needs to be on them. When a customer comes in and they are self-focused and it's not reasonable, it's not genuine, it's one, there's a misunderstanding, then I'm not going to be others focused. I'm going to kind of stay around here to let them know that, hey, look, this is what I need first. Yeah, and kind of like, it's kind of like you're not backing down. You're not backing down, but you're also not starting a fight either, right? So it's just coming in really grounded in what I need to be able to communicate and get across to the other side. So yeah, those are the 2 examples. Like if in this business of communication, we think that, because of our upbringing or because of the careers we've had or because of this, that, and the other, that we're destined to communicate one way forever. Not true. What I'm trying to teach here through this model, this model where we can be balanced, is that we want to be confident enough to approach every conversation, every interaction from this balanced place, and when we need to, slide out to the right. So hopefully we don't need to get out here too much, out to these extremes. But yeah, like really learning to play and be a bit more self-focused if we have spent a lot of time in our communication being others focused, or if we're really good at being self-focused, maybe bringing in some of that care, consideration for others, and flexing that muscle instead. So just to wrap it up, if we only know how to be one-sided with that communication, we're going to say the wrong thing in the wrong context. If we don't know how to traverse, we're going to say the wrong thing at the wrong time, right? We're going to say something that's not conducive to the connection. We're going to say something, we're going to do something that's not helpful to the creation process. When we only know how to live on one side of these scales, we're going to remain untrustworthy one way or another to the people that we're building connections with. If we only know how to be of service and be considerate of others, people will not trust us when it's time to get shit done, when it's time to get in the ring, when it's time to put the red bands on, when it's time to like do the hard stuff. We're going to be known for not being able to do that. If we're only self-focused, and when we're communicating and asking people to come on a journey with us, whatever it may be, or trust in us, people are going to know that we're only out to get up for ourselves. So being balanced, knowing how to do both, knowing how to traverse that whole spectrum, shows your people that you are both, that you know how to get shit done and you know how to care for them. And it comes across, it's consistent in your communication, it's consistent when you show up, it's consistent. Your communication is consistent. And that's a powerful thing because people can trust that consistent communication, right? So developing flexibility, learning how to be both a degree of self-focused and a degree of others-focused, knowing that at the extremes, we've got things like self-centered, like at a level 5 self-focusedness, that a word. You've got self-centered, self-indulgent, smug. I would invite, if you're watching this, I would invite you to feel into how comfortable that feels, being known as someone who's self-centered, smug, arrogant. Have you sat with these things? Because if you're uncomfortable to be those things, then we won't even try to have a go at showing up at a 2 or a 3 or a 4 self-focused. If we feel unsafe to be self-focused, and if we feel unsafe to be any of these things, we're going to find it difficult to show up for ourselves and to really ask for what we need, take what we need. And if we are afraid of appearing as all of these things, then we're going to struggle to show care and consideration, which builds trust with people, which shows people that they can trust us and that they can come on a journey. So the invitation is to explore how you feel about these attributes out on the extreme sides of the scale, and see how, if we're afraid of these, then we're going to hang out here. If we're afraid of these, we're going to hang out here. Okay. So, and what these mean. What does it mean? I could look at this list, and I used to look at this list and go, I don't ever want my people to see me as this, because especially culturally, it's like, well, this is not who we're supposed to be. Self-focused, no, we're supposed to like be all about the other. So I really struggled with embracing this. But I was more comfortable over here. Right? I was more comfortable over here. But then what worried about me about being over here was that I wasn't getting anything done. I wasn't achieving much. I wasn't being taken like genuinely by people. And I would see people that would have conversations with me, find me really really valuable, really helpful, but then they would go and actually take that journey with someone else. And that started to really hurt. And so sometimes when it comes to scales, is that when the pain of staying the same finally outweighs the pain of changing something, that's when we move. Because the pain of staying the same is officially too high for us to handle anymore, that we create the change. So if we can also see that on this side, we might be winning, but at the cost of what? Our integrity, our spirit. And over here, we might be really in service, but at the cost of what? Our resources. And so we need to start having some honest conversations about, is this what we want? Is this what we want? So I invite you to explore these. I'll do some more trainings on this. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. And just a reminder, any questions and conversations, let's take them deeper inside of our Authentic in Business global community on Facebook. The links are everywhere, so join there and we can have a deeper conversation there. All right. Ka kite.